I'm so honored to introduce Jolie. She's a senior at Pace. She's a star of the varsity girls volleyball team that hopefully will win their next state championship next week. And she writes with more heart than anyone I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Jolie Litvak.
Having a lisp is like having food stuck in my teeth. No matter what I say, it's the only thing people focus on. If you know me, you know I love to talk. And if you can hear me, you know I have a lisp. It's a little thing, really, and not super noticeable. You'd have to listen for it, but it's definitely there. The word lisp is really hard to say, coming from someone who has one. I'm in a conversation with someone and mention I have a lisp, immediately putting it on display. If they didn't hear it before, they definitely do now. It's ironic. I love talking, but I can't talk right. For some background, I took speech therapy in the 2nd grade. It was a program my parents signed me up for at school, and I hated it. I had to get pulled out of class during free time to read flashcards off with a speech therapist, and I found it so frustrating. I could read the flashcards perfectly, and they could understand what I was saying. So why did it matter how I sounded when I was saying it? So I asked them to stop, and they let me. And now I'm stuck, stumbling over the letter S. I remember my siblings also used to make fun of me for it when I was younger, but I never really took it to heart. They're siblings. They're supposed to be mean. I didn't actually think it was that bad until high school. Freshman year, I'm sitting at a crowded Inman table during break. I'd say there's about 30 people there. Everyone is talking. In a desperate effort to include myself in the conversation, I agree with something that somebody said with a yes. Almost immediately, a boy repeats what I said with a super exaggerated lisp. Yes. Now everyone's laughing. I honestly doubt anyone remembers this moment now, but it stuck with me. I really want to emphasize how small the comment was. It was quite literally one word, but it held the weight of 1,000. Ever since that moment, I couldn't escape it. People knew now that I had a lisp. People knew now to listen for it. Instinctively, I did too. I started to hear my own voice. I heard it on repeat, and it grew with the laughter that elicited following each mispronunciation. Or maybe it didn't, and it was all in my head, but either way, it made me feel small. My lisp became bigger than me. So I stopped talking. Because what was the point of talking if people were just going to repeat what I said with a super exaggerated lisp? My words felt invalidated, like nobody was listening to what I was saying, only how I sounded when I was saying it. I tried fixing it with YouTube videos, secretly practicing my words for hours on end at home, but all it taught me was to be even more hyper-aware of how I was speaking, resulting in my speech sounding even more idiotic than before. And as you can hear, it didn't work. For sophomore year, after homecoming, I went to a party. I found myself talking to a girl I never met before. I didn't even catch her name. What I do remember, though, is what she said. "I love your voice." 4 words, a tiny comment, just as small as the comment the boy made freshman year, but this was different. She mentioned the way I sounded, not in a negative way. For me, this was unheard of. There's this girl I'd never seen before, never met prior to the party, and she felt the need to compliment my voice. I had a realization. Not everybody hears my lisp the same way I do. Nobody is more critical of me than myself. Sure, I still have a lisp, but maybe it isn't all bad, and I've come to realize that it isn't a flaw. That compliment changed everything. Eventually. Let's call it a spark. Because it led me down the path of why. Why did I care so much about how other people thought I sounded? Why did I dwell so much on the negative? I started talking again, a lot. That's why I'm up here, doing a speech. I can't shut up. And I'm not saying the insults stopped, because they definitely didn't. I still get a lisp comment 3 times a week minimum, but they don't cut as deep. And I'm sure I've just invited about a dozen more after coming up here and doing this speech. A little thing, one insult or one compliment, can completely change the way that somebody perceives themselves. Believe me, I've been on both sides of it. One insult about my voice made me stop speaking for weeks. One compliment brought me back. It's the same thing you hear every year at school. Think before you speak. It's almost on repeat. Think before you speak. Think before you speak. But the reason it's said so much is because it's true. Words matter. The effects ripple and can be permanent. Think before you speak. We've all done it. Said something to make people laugh that negatively impacted another. And saying I didn't mean it that way, or it was just a joke, doesn't change anything. Think before you speak. Have I said it enough yet? But again, why do we focus so much on the negative? Why does one insult have so much more of a hold on us than 10 compliments? Negativity bias. Negativity bias is defined as our tendency to not only register negative stimuli more readily than others, but also to dwell on those events. I did some outside research on this topic and stumbled upon psychologist Catherine Moore. Moore credits evolutionary factors for this trait. It's primal. Millions of years ago, we had to fight to survive, focus on the negative. Positivity was fatal. Imagine you're in a field of flowers. It's very pretty, but there's also a tiger. No time to stop and smell the roses. Obviously, you focus on the tiger, purely for survival. Ignoring it would be deadly. We have the same things happen to us, focusing on the negative. Here's another example. You open your phone to 2 articles. The first, 10,000 trees planted in environmentally struggling area. The second, 6 dead in massive plane crash and scandal. Which do you click? Realistically, 95% of us are clicking the second one. To the other 5%, we appreciate you. Studies show that we are simply more attracted to bad news because of negativity bias. We tend to remember traumatic experiences better than positive ones, think about negative interactions more, and recall insults better than praise. That's why they stick with us longer than compliments. It's why when I speak, I assume that everyone is hyper-focused on my lisp, even though they probably don't care. And even if they did, why should I? It's my life. It's why when I'm in a crowded room, I assume everyone is staring at me. They're not, except right now. But it's because our brains are wired to pay attention to the bad things and not so much the good, because those can't hurt us. The good things aren't threatening, so we don't have to hyperfixate on them. In life, the only people who care are ourselves. This is the issue. We tend to work things up to be much bigger than they are, turning the littlest things into monsters that haunt us. But what makes it worse is the things that people say. Insults magnify the already all-consuming negative thoughts that we have about ourselves. So what can we do about it? The TEDx theme this year, as you all know, is the little things. And I could stand up here and tell you all it's the little things we say that make a difference. I could tell you all to be kinder, to think before you speak. But the truth is, the world won't change just because somebody says be kind. People will be harsh. People will say things. And we can't control that. We can't control what people say or how they act, but we can control how we respond. We can decide if we let insults dictate our lives. You can decide. Take control of your brain. Beat the negativity bias. Consciously cultivate gratitude and challenge your negative thoughts. This is the solution. Focus on the positive. There are no tigers chasing you. It's simply you versus you. And at the end of the day, people's opinions of you shouldn't matter because they simply see what they want to see through their own bias-tinted goggles. It's not even a valid source of information. I use my lisp as a metaphor for something much bigger. My lisp never changed. It didn't get worse freshman year when someone called it out, and it didn't get better when a girl I barely knew complimented it at a party. What changed was my mindset. I learned that most of the time, people just aren't thinking about me the way that I think they are. And in the rare moments that they do, it's often forgotten by them in seconds. So I urge you, be kind, be confident, but most importantly, be yourself, especially in the little ways. Because in the end, it's the little things that define us, not the people who try to make you feel small. Thank you.